So, engagement party. She tells me she doesn't owe me loyalty, then gets mad when I walk out. After her ex dumped her, she came crawling back, but I had already moved on. Hi Reddit, I'm 31, male, a civil engineer. My fiancée, let's call her Naomi, is 29. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. As far as I knew, things were solid. We'd planned a simple engagement party at a nice downtown venue. She'd picked family, friends. Nothing crazy. One evening, we were sitting at the kitchen table going over the guest list. She had her laptop open, firing off invitations. I was checking catering numbers. Normal couple stuff. Then she casually says, "Oh, I'm inviting Dan." I look up. Dan? Your ex, Dan? She doesn't even pause typing. Yeah, he's important to me. He was there for me before you were. Then she looks at me with that daring you to react look. You're not insecure right now, are you? Now, I'm not the jealous type. I don't go through her phone. I don't care if she has male friends. But inviting your ex to your engagement party? That's like bringing a knife to a birthday party, completely inappropriate. I stayed calm and said, I'm uncomfortable with that. Wrong answer. She rolls her eyes. This isn't your party to control, Ezra. I don't owe you loyalty. We're not even married yet. Stop acting like I belong to you. My fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry in 6 months, just told me she didn't owe me loyalty. We'd been together for years, shared a joint bank account, she was on my lease. But apparently, unless there was a marriage certificate, basic respect didn't apply. All I could say was, do whatever you think is appropriate. She smiled. Like she'd won. Great. I knew you'd understand. Dan's really excited to catch up with everyone. The rest of the evening was uncomfortable. She was glued to her phone, giggling every few minutes, full on teenage giggles. I asked who she was texting. She got defensive and said it was work stuff. At PM on a Saturday. Sure, I went to bed early but couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in my head, I don't owe you loyalty. Like, when exactly does loyalty kick in? After the wedding? After the honeymoon? Never? And she didn't even try to reassure me. No, Dan and I are just friends. No, I want you to meet him. Just that line. Next morning, she was chipper, making pancakes, talking about color schemes. I think we should do blue and silver. Dan always said I looked good in blue. Dan always said, not, I think I look good. Not, we picked it. No, Dan always said. I just nodded and drank my coffee. Something shifted in me right then. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. That Thursday, my sister called. I told her everything. She paused. Ezra, that's not normal. You know that, right? I don't know anymore, I said. Naomi had me feeling like I was controlling for not wanting her ex at our engagement party. My sister said, you're not controlling. You're setting a normal boundary. What's next? She'll invite him to your bachelor party. It made me laugh, though it wasn't funny because honestly, I wasn't sure she wouldn't. Here's the thing. I'm an engineer. I solve problems. You don't slap duct tape on a weak foundation. You assess the structure, find the fault lines, and fix it. Or rebuild from scratch. So I started planning. I opened our joint wedding account, 15,000 total. I'd put in $12,000. She'd put in $3,000. I initiated a transfer to pull my share out. It would take a couple of days. Then I canceled everything in my name: venue, photographer, caterer. Found an apartment across town, closer to my office. Saturday morning, the day of the party, everything was ready. Money moved, contracts canceled, apartment secured. Naomi was in the shower, singing like she was in a rom-com. I was sipping coffee, checking my mental list. I'm so excited for tonight, she said, bouncing into the kitchen in her robe. It's going to be perfect, perfect, I repeated. I'm sure it'll be exactly what you're looking for. She kissed my cheek the first time in weeks and started making breakfast, humming some song, probably from Dan. I got dressed, simple black suit, white shirt, modest tie. Wanted to look good for my final appearance as her fiancée. The venue looked beautiful. Guests mingled, laughed, congratulated us. I was almost feeling okay until Dan walked in, tall, fake, tan, cocky grin, expensive casual shirt. Walked in like he owned the place, holding a gift bag for Naomi. Not us, just her. She practically ran to him. Danny, they hugged too long. People noticed. She opened his gift right there, a necklace with a pendant. You remember everything, she said tearfully. Of course I do, Nana, he replied. Nana, the nickname she once told me she hated. Apparently not. For the rest of the party, Dan was glued to her, whispering in her ear, bringing her drinks, hand on her back. I just stood there, decorative furniture. My mom came up. Honey, who's that man with Naomi? Her ex-boyfriend. I replied. She gave me a look. Not a word, but she understood. Later, near the bathrooms, I overheard her friends Jessica and Rachel talking. They hadn't seen me. I can't believe she invited him, Jessica said. She told me she's not even sure she loves Ezra, Rachel whispered. Dan makes her feel alive again. What's she going to do? I don't know, but she's been texting him non-stop. I think she's having second thoughts. I let that sink in. Then I walked to the DJ and asked for the mic. Hey everyone, thanks for coming tonight. The room went quiet. Naomi stood next to Dan, confused. To Naomi, may you find exactly what you're looking for, because clearly it isn't me. I handed the mic back and walked out. No scene, just walked. She called my name. People murmured, but I kept going. Got in my car, drove home. My phone buzzed non-stop texts, calls, voicemails. I turned the ringer off. At home, I sat on the couch, watched my phone light up like a Christmas tree. Didn't read a single message. Slept well that night for the first time in weeks. Sunday morning, I was making coffee when someone started pounding, not knocking, on my door. Checked the peephole. Naomi still in her dress from last night. Hair a mess, makeup streaked. I opened the door. She pushed past me. Are you serious? Is this a prank? So I invited my ex. You're throwing everything away over that? She paced my living room like a storm, voice hoarse, dress wrinkled, wine stains on it. I leaned against a doorframe and just watched. For 4 years, I'd never seen her like this, desperate, frantic, falling apart when things didn't go her way. She ranted about how I embarrassed her, how her parents were mortified, as if the problem was me walking out, not her behavior. I stayed calm. Told her she threw it all away when she made it clear who she really wanted. That made her spiral more. She started rewriting history. Dan was just a friend. The texts were nothing. The necklace was just him being nice, but I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. Then I brought up what I'd overheard her friends say about her not being sure she loved me, about how Dan made her feel alive again. Her whole face went white the second she realized I'd heard that conversation. She tried to walk it all back, said things had been taken out of context, begged me to work through it with her. Then came the crying, the quiet kind at first. But eventually it turned into the big, ugly sobs that shook her whole body, the kind that's more panic than sadness. I told her I just wanted the truth for once. That's when the mask came completely off. She looked me straight in the eye and told me I'd regret this. Told me she and Dan were perfect together, that they always had been. Then she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Wait, I said. You need to come get your stuff. She stopped for a second and turned around. I thought she might fight me on it, but instead she just said, fine, I'll be back tomorrow. Bring someone with you. I told her, I don't want this turning into another scene. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. That night, I started going through her things, just wanting it over with. I packed everything, ready to get it out of my life. Then I reached her desk drawer and found the photos, not just 1 or 2 old pictures you keep for nostalgia. A stack of them, her and Dan. Dan with his arm around her at some beach. Naomi laughing at something he said in a restaurant. The two of them dressed up at what looked like a wedding, all smiles, all warmth. Way too comfortable, but the photos weren't even the worst part. Underneath them were letters. Actual handwritten letters from Dan, postmarked from just the last few months. Months when we were engaged. Months when we were planning our wedding. I opened one. I wish I hadn't. I can't believe you're getting married. I still think about what we had. You were the one who got away. Another one said, seeing your engagement photos on social media messed me up for days. You look happy, but do you really love him the way you loved me? There were 5 in total. Each one got more intense than the last. Dan begging her to reconsider, telling her she was making a mistake, that they belonged together. And she had kept every single one. The last letter was dated just 2 weeks before our engagement party. I know you invited me. I know what that means. We both know this marriage isn't right for you. Let's talk when I see you. That's when it hit me, the whole thing had been planned. This wasn't some innocent reconnection or harmless friendship. They had been scheming behind my back for months. I boxed everything up. Let her deal with her own mess when she came to get it. Later, my phone buzzed a text from my sister asking if I was okay after whatever had happened at the party. I told her I'd call later and shut my phone off. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I could breathe. No more pretending not to notice. No more competing with a ghost for my own fiancee's attention. And the strange thing, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was relieved. Better to find out who someone really is before you marry them rather than after. And Naomi had shown me exactly who she was, someone who thought loyalty was optional. Someone who would rather chase the thrill of what if than build something real. Someone who could throw away 4 solid years the moment something shinier came along. I spent the rest of Sunday doing normal stuff. Around dinner time, I finally listened to her voicemails, 12 of them. They started angry, then grew desperate. As the night went on, the last one came in around 6 a.m., her voice hollow and shaky, begging me to call her back so we could fix this. But there was nothing to fix. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be with you. You can't negotiate your way back into someone's heart after they've already handed it to someone else. I deleted all the messages and went back to my normal Sunday routine. Best decision I ever made. Monday morning, I woke up at my usual time, made coffee, and went to work like nothing had happened. It felt strange driving to the office, technically single again, but honestly kind of freeing. No more texts asking when I'd be home. No more checking in about dinner. No more walking on eggshells. No one at work knew what had gone down at the engagement party, so the day went on as usual. Around p.m., she showed up with her dad. Poor guy looked absolutely mortified, like he already knew exactly what his daughter had done and didn't approve. He'd always been decent to me, worked construction for 30 years. No nonsense kind of man. Ezra, he said when I opened the door. Sorry about all this. It's fine, I told him. Her stuff's in boxes by the door. It took about 20 minutes to load everything into his truck. I didn't mention the letters or the photos, figured she'd find them when she unpacked. Let her realize just how much I knew. Naomi didn't say a single word, just directed her dad where to put things. When they were done, she stood at the door. This is really it? She asked. You're not going to change your mind? This is really it? She looked like she might cry again, but her dad was already in the truck waiting. She got in without another word, and they drove away. The next week got interesting. Tuesday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Ezra, this is Patricia, Naomi's mom. I almost hung up, but Patricia had always been kinda middle school teacher for 30 years. None of this was her fault. I just wanted to call and apologize, she said, for what happened at your party. For how Naomi's been behaving. You don't need to apologize for her choices, I told her. Yes, I do, she said firmly. We raised her better than that. What she did was completely and frankly embarrassing for our whole family. She told me she'd had a long talk with Naomi about respect, commitment, and how you don't invite your ex to your engagement party. Apparently, Naomi didn't take it well, insisted Patricia was being controlling and that Dan was just a friend. But Patricia wasn't buying it. I've been married for 35 years, Ezra, she said. I know what it looks like when someone's heart isn't fully committed. Before we hung up, she said something that stuck with me. You didn't deserve any of that. She ruined the best thing she ever had. That same week, the gossip started trickling in through mutual friends. Nothing dramatic, just people wondering what had happened since I'd left the party without making a scene. No one really knew the full story, and Naomi wasn't giving any straight answers. Thursday night, my friend James, who'd been at the party, texted me, "Dude, that was wild on Saturday." Naomi cried the rest of the night and Dan just disappeared. What's the real story? I gave him the basics without going into detail. Wow, that's rough, he replied. Honestly, the whole Dan thing was weird to watch. Everyone noticed he was acting way too familiar. People were uncomfortable. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who had thought something was off. Then came Friday afternoon. My sister called, laughing. You need to hear this, she said. Jessica just texted me Dan dumped Naomi yesterday. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? Apparently, he told her he wasn't looking for anything serious. Said maybe they could hang out sometime. Classic player move. So let me get this straight. Naomi threw away for years a relationship and an engagement. For a guy who wasn't even interested in dating her, she built this entire disaster for nothing. The whole fantasy had been in her head, and he was just using her for fun. Jessica told me Naomi had been calling in sick to work and crying nonstop. She kept saying she'd made a huge mistake. I felt nothing. I should have felt vindicated, or angry, or maybe even sad. But instead, I just felt tired, like the whole exhausting drama was finally over and I could breathe again. Meanwhile, the gossip mill didn't stop spinning. Word was getting around about what happened at the engagement party, and it wasn't doing Naomi any favors, especially in her line of work. She was in PR, and in PR, your image is everything. Having your engagement fall apart publicly because you invited your ex? Yeah, not a great look. James knew someone at her company and told me she'd already lost to major clients. Her boss had quietly moved her to a smaller team, handling less important accounts. Turns out being a public relations rep who can't manage her own public image is, well, a bit of a liability. Who would have thought? That weekend, I went apartment hunting. Found a solid 1-bedroom about 10 minutes closer to work. Rent was a little higher, but with my promotion, it was no problem. Sunday evening, I was packing some boxes when I got a text from an unknown number. At first, I thought it might be Naomi using someone else's phone. But no, it was Dan. Man, sorry about everything that went down. Naomi told me you guys broke up. Didn't mean for things to get complicated. I stared at that text for a full minute. This guy had spent weeks sabotaging my engagement. He pulled it off, dumped Naomi, and now he was texting me like it was just some weird misunderstanding. I deleted it without replying. Some people aren't worth the energy it takes to tell them what you really think. 2 months after the engagement party, I was fully settled into my new place and honestly loving life. I'd started going to the gym for the first time in years. Nothing crazy, just lifting and cardio a few times a week. Turns out, when you're not constantly managing someone else's moods, you actually have time for self-care. I wasn't dating, and I wasn't looking either. After 4 years with someone who turned out to be a stranger, I was just enjoying being alone, figuring out what I liked, what made me happy without compromise. Life was simple, predictable, drama-free. I should have known it wouldn't last. One Tuesday evening in late November, I got back from the gym and saw a familiar car parked in the visitor section of my complex, a silver Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper from when Naomi backed into a mailbox 2 years ago. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard from her in over a month, not since those voicemails. I grabbed my gym bag and headed for the elevator, hoping she hadn't seen me. No such luck. As soon as I pressed the call button, I heard her voice behind me calling my name. I turned. She looked different, thinner, like she hadn't been eating, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was shorter, one of those dramatic breakup haircuts, like she was trying to reinvent herself. She asked if we could talk. Against my better judgment, I let her come up to my apartment. She looked around like she was touring a museum exhibit, then commented on how nice the place was. I stayed standing. She sat down on my couch without being invited. The whole performance was predictable. She'd made a huge mistake, the biggest of her life. Dan had used her, never wanted a relationship, just wanted to see if he could break us up. Once he did, he got bored and moved on. She started crying, not the angry tears from that morning at my old house, but the quiet, defeated kind that made her whole body slump. She told me she'd thrown away everything good in her life for someone who didn't even care about her. For years together, our future, all our plans gone for nothing. Now, she wanted to make it right. She asked if we could work through this. Said we were good together, happy, that we were planning a wedding. For crying out loud, I reminded her about her loyalty comment, about how she told me Dan was better than me, how she chose him publicly, in front of everyone who mattered to us. Each point I made hit her like a physical blow. She had an excuse for everything. She was confused. Dan was in her head. She was angry and lashing out. People make mistakes. Love is supposed to be about forgiveness and second chances. I looked at her, sitting on my couch, crying over the consequences of her own choices, and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no urge to comfort her. Just emptiness where all those feelings used to be. The truth was pathetic. She only decided I was the love of her life after her first choice kicked her to the curb. Now she wanted to come back to the backup plan, go to counseling, do whatever it took to fix things. When I told her no, she looked genuinely shocked, like she couldn't believe I wouldn't take her back after everything she'd put me through. She tried the guilt trip, reminding me we had years together, saying I wouldn't even try to work things out. I explained that there was nothing to work out. She'd shown me who she really was, and I believed her. She didn't make a mistake, she made a choice. A series of choices. And now, she got to live with the consequences. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then turned back for one last shot at manipulation. "You're going to regret this," she said. "I'm the best thing that ever happened to you." "No," I told her as I opened the door. "You leaving me was the best thing that ever happened to me." She left without another word. I closed the door, locked it, and went back to my normal Tuesday evening, made dinner, watched the news, went to bed at a reasonable hour. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt completely at peace with my decision. There's something liberating about having someone show their true colors so clearly that you never have to wonder what if about the relationship again. The funny part, how obvious her game plan had been: wait for me to get over the initial hurt, then show up looking vulnerable and remorseful, expecting me to welcome her back like I was some kind of emotional doormat, just waiting for her to realize her mistake. But I wasn't the same guy she left 2 months ago. That guy might have taken her back, might have listened. I'd once been the kind of man who convinced himself that everyone deserved a second chance. Maybe he would have even been grateful just to have someone familiar back in his life. But not anymore. This guy knew better. Now, he'd learned the hard way that when someone shows you they think loyalty is optional, you believe them and you don't give them another chance to prove it again. Over the next few days, I wondered if she'd try again, maybe show up at my office, send letters, or get mutual friends to plead her case. But nothing happened. No calls, no texts, no messages through anyone. Maybe she'd finally realized that some bridges can't be rebuilt once you've burned them down. Or maybe she'd just moved on to someone else to play backup plan for her next relationship disaster. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. The best part, realizing I didn't miss her at all. Sure, I missed the idea of having a partner, but I didn't miss her. What I had now was better: peace, stability, and the freedom to build my life exactly the way I wanted it. And if someone came along who actually appreciated that life and wanted to be part of it, great. But I wasn't settling for less ever again. Some lessons are worth learning the hard way. 6 months after the engagement party disaster, I was doing better than I'd ever been. Work was going great. The promotion had led to even bigger projects, and I was building a reputation as the guy who could handle complex structural challenges. That's when I met Tiffany. She was a teacher at the elementary school near my office. We met at a coffee shop. She was grading papers, and I was working on project plans during lunch. She seemed normal. No drama, no ex-boyfriend baggage, just a regular person who liked movies and hiking and didn't feel the need to test my boundaries every 5 minutes. One Saturday afternoon, we were at the big supermarket downtown. We were in the pasta aisle when I saw her, Naomi, standing about 20 feet away with a basket, talking to some guy I didn't recognize. Tall, decent looking, wearing an expensive jacket that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. My first instinct? Turn around and go the other way. I didn't need this drama in my life, and I definitely didn't want Tiffany getting dragged into whatever scene Naomi might try to create. But it was too late. She'd already spotted me. I steered the cart toward another shelf, hoping she'd just mind her own business. No such luck. She called my name across the aisle like we were old friends, then walked over with her new guy, trailing behind, looking confused about why they were approaching strangers. Naomi looked Tiffany up and down and made a snide comment about how I'd already met someone. Didn't take long, she said. I introduced them politely, but Naomi ignored Tiffany completely. Then came her performance. She told me she'd met someone to this guy, Simon, who was standing there looking increasingly uncomfortable. But she couldn't just leave it at that. With that sharp edge I remembered from our worst fights, she said. I forgot to introduce you properly, Simon. This is my ex, Ezra. We were going to get married until he decided to throw everything away just because he's an insecure person who can't handle his girlfriend having male friends. The grocery store suddenly felt very quiet. Tiffany's hand found mine and gave a gentle squeeze, not possessive, just supportive. Simon looked between us, clearly having no idea what he'd walked into. Then I said, calmly, she invited her ex to our engagement party and spent the night hanging all over him. Simon's expression changed instantly. What is wrong with you? He asked Naomi. You're actually insane. Then, without another word, he walked away, leaving his basket in the middle of the aisle. We watched him through the store windows as he got into his car and drove off. Naomi stood there for a moment, watching him leave, before turning back to me with tears starting to form in her eyes. Well, you're happy now, aren't you, Ezra? I looked at her, the woman who had been the center of my world for 4 years, who I'd planned to marry, have kids with, grow old with, who threw it all away for a guy who dumped her as soon as he got what he wanted. And now she just sabotaged another relationship because she couldn't handle seeing me move on. I'm not happy or unhappy about what just happened, I told her. That's between you and him. You turned him against me, she said. I told him the truth, I replied. What he did with that information was his choice. Tiffany tugged gently on my arm. Maybe we should go, she said quietly. As we walked toward the checkout, I could hear Naomi saying something behind us, but I didn't turn around. Whatever else she had to say, it wasn't my problem anymore. So, Tiffany said as we loaded groceries onto the conveyor belt, that was your ex. That was her. She seems intense. I laughed. That's one word for it. Do you want to talk about it? I thought about it for a moment. Did I really want to rehash the whole story, Dan? The engagement party, all the drama? Not really, I said. It's old news, ancient history. As we walked to the car, I realized something had shifted. For months, the idea of running into Naomi had been something I dreaded. I'd worried about how I'd react, whether I'd feel anything, whether it would bring back all the hurt and anger. But now, nothing. She was just someone I used to know, someone who couldn't handle seeing me happy. Her problems weren't my problems anymore. Driving home, I realized this was probably the last time I'd ever see Naomi. She'd shown Simon exactly who she was in about 30 seconds, and he'd made the smart choice. I didn't feel bad for her. She made her bed, and now she gets to lie in it. The best part, Tiffany had seen the whole thing and hadn't run screaming. If anything, she seemed more interested in getting to know me. Turns out some people actually appreciate stability and honesty in a relationship. Who would have thought? The moral of the story: when someone shows you they don't think they owe you loyalty, believe them, and then show them what it looks like when you don't owe them your future. Sometimes, the best revenge really is just living well and not looking back.